so we'll discuss this in the 2D sense, you know, the idea. In other words, in 3D, you got two kinds of shear waves. The idea is the same, it's just more. So, the mainstream, in other words, there are two motivations for this work. One is you can tell your managers that we are actually interested in what they do today and helping them provide a modeling method that would, as ray theory, we know we can be selective. You can choose which trajectories you want, which events you want, which types of waves you want. You can put in primaries or multiples. But ray theory suffers issues of wave illumination, diffraction, absence of diffraction, and amplitude fidelity. Depending on your objective, those items can or cannot matter. Wave theory modeling, on the other hand, like finite difference, is elastic wave method. It models everything. You can't select. You start the engine, and every wave type, every trajectory is produced. So what we're looking for is a way to have the selectivity of ray theory, but in a wave theory. Okay? And in particular, to model P-wave only history, for example, in a heterogeneous, anisotropic, elastic medium, taking into account all of the interactions that affect the P-wave history in isolation without modeling the shear wave. Okay? There's no modeling of shear wave. So it's not a very deep thought. There's a reason we didn't start thinking about this for this reason, to be honest. This is important to our work because we want to get rid of, in our elastic imaging, the possibility of every type of history down to and back from that reflector that we're interested in an elastic medium. If you just let the elastic imaging go, it assumes that you could have P or S intervals on the way down and P and S intervals on the way back. Yes or no, but it has to deal with those possibilities, and hence it has a lot of demand on the degree of capture. Unknown shear wave, unknown S wave, unknown density. So in this compromise that I'm interested in, I want to follow only P down in an elastic medium, P up on an elastic medium, and then we'll care in terms of unknown parameters. In terms of the propagation is going to be dealing with P wave unknown and density. Of course, the shear wave velocity is not going to affect that kind of isolated issue. Okay? So if you leave the inverse scattering elastic on its own, it won't do that. We're intervening, as we have done many other times, for other purposes to that. Okay. This is talking all that same talk. Okay. So this equation 1 represents in some succinct form a description of P and S waves in a simple heterogeneous isotropic medium, okay? In 2D. So there's only one kind of shear wave. Okay? The formalism is in these slides for 3D. I'm not going to cover the idea. So you have two coupled equations. In other words, as soon as you have, if you have a homogeneous elastic medium, P waves mind their own business. P are P, S is S, and this kind of term, VPS, represents the coupling. Okay? The coupling. Similarly here. In other words, P and S get involved in each other's business, and the elastic finite difference, for example, solves for P and PS. That's it. But if you think of this as two equations and two unknowns, let's say, so one way to solve it is solve for P and PS. Yes. So let's say I said I only want P. Well, we know how to do that. It doesn't take inverse scattering series to figure that out. You just solve. In other words, if you have two equations, an x and y, you can solve for x and y. If I'm only interested in x, I solve the second equation for y in terms of x, substitute, I get one equation, and solve that variable. Yes? That's all we're going to do here. We're going to solve for PS and substitute it in there. Okay? Clear? Getting a single equation for P wave, which allows every, in other words, the P will, it will allow for a P generator, a P source, or an S source, and the only thing it's going to promise is that it's going to output somewhere at a receiver P wave. Okay? So every kind of history that gets to a P wave will be there. It's solving for PP with any kind of FP means a source. You have a source vector FP, FS. That's the P wave component and the S wave component. Clear? So it's not a genius idea. So how we're going to do this though is we're going to take this guy, put it over there. Okay? Put this guy over there, and then invert that operator. Okay? And then we'll invert that and get a solution for PS in terms of PS and PP, and put that up there, and then you'll see the interpretation. So, in other words, when we took that VSS and put it on the left, we're now going to invert the del squared plus omega squared over beta squared minus VSS that was sitting over here by a Green's function, GS, which is the inverse of this. Okay? So this is, all this is the shear wave equation, just rewritten. Okay? Where this GS is not the solution to a homogeneous problem. It's a solution to an acoustic problem, a heterogeneous acoustic problem with a shear wave background, right? And a heterogeneity. Clear? We're going to take this guy and substitute it in for Vs in the P equation. Yes? We're going to take, so what we just did is we took this guy, stuck it over there, invert this operator, and now we're going to take that Vs and put it in there. Yes? And this is what you get. Okay? This is what you get. So, what's the interpretation? This is what, in other words, how would you get Vp here? You would invert this operator, right? And you get reference G0p, right? G0p, and so on, G0p. That gives you Vp here. This is an integral equation then, right? To solve, you have Vp here, you have Vp there, right? And there. So you could make it a new P-wave looking equation.
But that GS also depends on P-wave.
Excuse me?
To go back to oh, yeah, that's fine. Okay, I see.
Okay, so let's just assume that, for example, you're in the water, and your source is P, just here, so as soon as that's the case, this guy's gone. There's no fs. Yes? Okay. So that takes care of one item. Now, then you have an equation that looks like VPP plus this integral, right, on VP. It's just a new p-wave looking equation, okay? Clear? So, that equation, first of all, how do you solve that equation? You could solve it by doing, that's a forward problem, right? You could do a series and say, oh, wait a minute. Well, if you're doing this for modeling, you can, in other words, when you do seam or something, you know the medium. You know the medium, so I can put a background, right? I can put perturbation, I can make the number of terms that I need in that series small, yes? In other words, yes? You understand? This is a perturbation method to produce p waves. The expression as it is, if you drop this term, gives you the entire p history, because this is in other words, there is no initial s in the background. In other words, you could expand this. There's no initial s because there's no initial source. Yes? It starts out as a p in the reference p. In other words, if you expand, then that p can be hit with a VSP, right? And it's something that couples p, whether it be actual p or reference when you know, hits that, gets propagated in this GS, which is a heterogeneous acoustic Green's function, which you could expand again. You could write that as, instead of GS, you could write it as GS equals GS0 plus GS0 VSS GS, right? And then start terming it. Again, depending on how big you think this is, right, what your background is. The point is that as soon as you drop this gives you a single channel modeling for a p-wave source that produces a p-wave with every history that p-wave is gone through. Is that clear? Every history. There's nothing dropped. If you want to drop histories between the source, which is p, and the observation point, which is p, that don't have shear wave legs, okay? Then you drop this term. This term is what couples, okay? So you follow? As soon as you drop that term, certain trajectories are not going to be made. Yes, are not going to be made. You understand? Certain certain histories that the actual source that ends up as a P are not going to be modeled. Everybody understands? A real P-wave source into a real receiver here will have events that what I'm saying right now will not predict, yes? Things with shear wave leg. But, so I'm saying those, drop that term. And then you are modeling, this VPP has, it isn't immune from shear wave properties, it has changes in lambda, mu, and rho, and then that becomes your engine, yes? It becomes the engine for modeling P-wave history. So this is the whole P-wave story, and here's the 3D. So the point is, you can reduce this to interactions which never allow the coupling, okay? Because here's what the part that we're going to have to look at. My view is that, in other words, we want to model real P, real S, okay? This guy is going to be building things from reference P, hit, reference S or P, and hit. That's what it does. It's a scattering theory, right, description of modeling. What I believe, and somebody in the group will show, is that if you drop terms which have in here reference shear propagation in hits, that will amount to dropping real shear, okay? In other words, I want to not model real shear propagation, and I believe that the real shear will come from the reference shear propagation, okay? It has reference P and reference shear. The reference P will produce the real P, okay? The reference shear will, through hits, okay, produce the real shear wave. Is it clear? Okay. So the point here is it gives, let me review what we did, because I see puzzled faces. Sometimes it's better to say less. Let's just start from the, this is not controvertible, right? This is just two couple equations for P and S, where here you have the couple. All we said here is, I want a single equation. I don't want to solve for P and PS. I just want to solve for PP. So what you do is get rid of PS up there. Okay? Now, of course, if you get PP, you can go back and solve for PS, but I don't want to do that, okay? Just solve this in some convenient form for PS, or look at then the history of a P wave source and a P wave, an observation of a P wave at some observation point, and identify in this description, which is for every history that ends up as a P wave here, those components, those ingredients, which are creating shear wave legs, and drop them. Yes, just drop them, knowing you're not modeling the whole thing. You want to model the whole thing? Press the finite difference button. Okay? So that's the idea. Then what? So that I think could be useful for large-scale modeling. In other words, it could be that seam or RTM in an elastic. Let's say you want to do elastic RTM. Elastic, heterogeneous, anisotropic RTM. The prescription is get me a finite difference scheme, yes? That does that. And when you do it, it's going to do everything. What I'm saying is this gives you the possibility, the concept, the thought of running that kind of modeling in an elastic medium, yes? Where you're only modeling P histories. And then you can decide by your background and, you make the background plus your perturbation equal the actual medium. Yes? It's a modeling. You know the medium, so you can make that difference small. Yes? And often in seam projects, they don't want rapid change. So if you do a smooth, let's say a smooth background, you could do WKBJ. Yes? And then some smooth perturbation on it. Yes? Those are ideal for this. This thing will be more costly if you homogeneous, big changes, you're going to have terms. Yeah? So it's a thought for the seam activity, okay? As some compromise that gives have something useful in intermediate. Yes? For us, I want it for that. Now, do you know, Weglein, how you're going to set all this thing up with this kind of modeling into the inverse scattering to do this? The answer is I don't. The answer is right now, all of the things that I have proposed here, I don't know. Okay. But as Richard knows, Richard was there in Schlumberger when we were just getting started with the internal, there were lots we didn't know. You got to be comfortable with that, right? In other words, there's a reason for this. There's a reason for that, and that interests me, and we're going to do it. So the one thing that we have to understand is, well, for example, at ARCO, when we were struggling for 3 years to get I came back from Brazil, and Paolo can tell you, there was a view that we communicated, maybe it's impossible to locate the internal multiple. We couldn't find it. 3 years we couldn't locate it, right? 1D. A 1D example where you predicted an attenuator. Well, what we told our management is, I'm not sure, but if we don't find it, no one's going to come easily and find it. Yeah. It's going to be hard or impossible. Okay? So I commit that same way to you. Okay? That these things we don't take them lightly. What we do ask is, realistic. We have a record of doing things which are difficult and being stubborn and persistent. If we see the value, and we have that same commitment today to these depth imaging deliverables that David's alluding to, I can guarantee you that we would like it to go faster. When I testified to Congress, at Congress for the RIPC thing, TJ Winery's here, they said, if we give you a lot of money, okay, we gave you $500 million, could you, this 6 months from now, find a method to, they want to know if they gave a lot of money, the U.S. Congress, to research for oil, could that help in the deep water? That was the topic of a congressional committee, and I was called to testify. I said, well, that 6 month thing is a bit of an issue. I said, some things take time. I said, maybe I shouldn't say, all the women, close your ears. What I said was, and it's in the congressional record, what I'm telling you, unfortunately, is I said, it still takes 9 months to have a baby. If you have 9 men, it doesn't make it 1 month. So I thought they understood it. So David, please remember that when you go to your marriage. Some things just take time. Okay. I didn't say that. This is my evil twin speaking, who arrived just now. So anyway, let me end the meeting. End my career. By the way, that antidote to FWI, they're going to publish in Leading Edge. So I told all the students, finish up your degrees quickly. You need to have a sense of humor, laugh about yourself. So the summary of the meeting was going to be, I was going to go through the program and just mention the things you've seen. Is there a slide? And then we'll be done, yes? But the main thing you should understand is I have a huge sense of appreciation and gratitude for being allowed to do things that many people find impossible to believe. Let alone, it's not a practical thing, they think it's mentally impossible. I think, I appreciate that, but I think that we have a record of things that people didn't believe, starting with migration inversion. When we did migration inversion in the mid-'80s, the migration people and the inversion people all hated it. At ARPO, we kept the migration and the inversion people on different floors. They didn't talk to each other. One group came from Clairvaux, one group came mainly from UT Austin, Milo Backus. So the AVO group, they were very convinced that the earth was flat. And they were very flat, and that they didn't care too much where that reflector was, but for sure they were going to find out what changed across it. Okay? So that was their concern. They were interested in what changed, where it changed. They didn't care too much. The migration people always said, we don't care about amplitude. We don't care about amplitude, which is structure. Amplitude. So they knew where they were, they didn't know what they were. So they had two floors. The So they knew where and not, and they didn't get what, and the other knew what changed, they didn't know where it changed, and they were happy. When we were talking where and then what, there was no floor. They didn't let us off the elevator. We just had to go up and down. So Milo Backus wrote in a book in 1984, what Stolten and Weglein are talking about in migration inversion will never work on any planet. Any planet. That was hard to see the positive part of that. Because I myself thought it would work on a different planet. I knew it wouldn't work on this planet. But, so we're used to that kind of thing, and you should expect it. And so I'm going back to my initial comments. I have huge gratitude that you give us the opportunity to do things. Some we pay the rent, other things we know are not near term, they're risky. Can we guarantee that today that you're going to see an inverse scattering series depth imaging under the soil? No, I can't. But if everything that you do in a research program shows you results every year, you're not doing research.
So does ISS stand for International Space Station? Because that's the only thing that sort of works.
That's it won't work there either. No, you have to be able to let it. The main thing is we're having fun, we're working very hard, and we never forget that why the support's here, and we never take it for granted. We don't think we're entitled to it or anything like that. We feel every day we have to earn your trust and confidence. So I thank you for that. This is a table of contents. It's just to point out that there are topics here. Here's Dr. Herrera on the PML, yes? Somewhere further down. Antidote. There's that alternative. An alternative adaptive subtractive criteria. Okay? So there's a whole discussion of that. We can leave that for another time. It's very, I think, simple, what I'm proposing. And it's proposed to let you know what type of criteria could replace energy minimization that would be consistent. It's not necessarily do that criteria. It lets you know that there are possibilities like that that would not run at cross purposes to the strength of the methods it's meant to serve.